We've got the Wyvern Ignition, hot and fresh out the kitchen. Meowster crafted the baddie so he could slay Inhibition. Seriously though, one of the poster weapons of the Monster Hunter franchise, the Greatsword is a fantastic choice if you truly want to face how bad you are at the game. I'm Light It Up Dan, and on the channel we cover action RPGs, roguelikes and MMOs, including loads of Monster Hunter World. I focus on producing content that aims to reduce the overwhelm and the unknown of the Monster Hunter games. If you've not caught my previous weapon overviews or event roundups, I highly recommend them. There's something there for everyone. A massive thank you to all of you who have really turned up and have brought us to around 80% of unsubscribed viewers on the channel now. As the majority of you are returning, if you enjoy the videos, do subscribe. And with that said, let's get to it. I was teasing at the start saying the weapon's going to show you how bad you are at the game, not just for the sake of cooking you unsuspecting poor viewers, although that is motivation enough. Greatsword is the slowest weapon in the game that demands great positioning and timing, making it an advanced weapon even though the inputs are pretty basic and straightforward. Repeatedly pressing Y puts you into a combo string doing a charge swing and a side blow. This is when you're not moving the left stick at all. You can also press Y and B to do a rising slash. By holding the left stick forward, you will go from charge attack 1 to charge attack 2 to charge attack 3. These can be fired out the moment that you get into them, or you can hold down the button, as implied by the name, to charge up the attack. You'll see your character glow with ready pink, indicating 3 levels of charge when you light up each time. This combo here is the bread and butter of Greatsword. It's what it's all about. The final hit of the charge combo, the true charged slash, is the real moneymaker, the thing that's going to be dishing out the damage. Suffice to say, you're going to get the most out of these attacks when you fully charge them to level 3. And this is my first crucial point about the Greatsword. You don't always have to fully perfect level 3 charge all of your attacks. Sure, that's what you're aiming for, that's the goal, but it's infinitely better to get out a level 2 or even a 0 level charge attack that lands, that connects, rather than you getting smacked because you were trying to get a level 3 and you didn't have enough time for it. Also, whilst this combo is the bread and butter, don't sleep on the rest of what the weapon can do. If you solely try to force out these attacks to land the TCS, you're not taking advantage of what the Greatsword actually has to offer. For example, the B combo string that starts with wide slash, going into a tackle and then into the jumping wide slash, which can be looped back into the beginning with a side blow with Y. As implied by the name, these are wide hitting attacks and cover much more area horizontally. Compare this to the Y charged attacks, which are very vertical, very narrow. Also note that the jumping wide slash deals a really decent amount of damage, in addition to helping you maneuver your character whilst doing an attack. Utilize this to your advantage and when the situation calls for it. This is what I mean, don't just focus on the 3 Y charge attacks. There is so much more you can do. We just gotta look at one of the most important abilities the Greatsword can do, the tackle. This move allows you to hyper armor through attacks whilst taking minimal damage. You have high damage resistance during the tackle, but you do take damage, it's not an iframe. If you could only do it during that B combo attack, it wouldn't be so useful. Thankfully, you can do it in many other places, such as in between charge slashes whilst you're holding down the charge, and directly after rolling. Tackling takes up a hefty bit of stamina, so you're not going to be able to spam it constantly. But you've got a few in you if you go from dodging to tackles to dodging to tackles before you do run out. What's really exciting about the tackle is when you do it in between your charge slashes, it effectively allows you to skip that slash attack in the 3 slash combo, allowing you to tackle skip all the way over to true charged slash if you want to do so. The downside of skipping them is that if you charged your attacks during the combo, you get to full charge quicker as you're going throughout the combo string. If you tackle skip, you'll have to do the full 3 tick charge. Mess around with it, you'll see what I mean. You still get the attack out way quicker than you would have. It's important to note that in between your charge attacks whilst you're holding down the charge, you're able to lean to the left or right to maneuver your character a little bit in that direction, helping you to reposition during the combo string. The tackle skip and using tackle to hyper armor through attacks is fantastic. However, post Iceborne, you've also got the Slinger Burst. After your first charge slash or any of them in the combo string, you can press left trigger to do a Slinger Burst and point it to any 360 direction to completely change which way you're facing, and skip the next charge attack in the combo. So effectively you can fire off the first one without any charge if you want to, do a Slinger Burst in any direction that you want to face, space, and then hold down Y to charge up the TCS. An incredible way to reposition yourself and ensure you're getting the biggest damage attack out. Once more, as with everything, I'm not saying just use one, don't use the other. You have access to both of these in your greatsword toolkit. Utilize them both depending on what the situation calls for. It's going to feel unnatural and clunky at first. I mean, the whole weapon does. Me picking it back up and trying to get used to it again, I was getting smacked around something fierce. But that's only because it requires absolute precision, great placement and great timing. These things can and will be improved upon as you get more used to the weapon and you get more used to the monsters you're facing off against. If you're used to taking them on with other weapons, it's almost like relearning the fight with greatsword against that monster. Not inherently a good or a bad thing, just an observation. And more than anything, I'm trying to say, be patient with yourself. It's going to take a little bit of time to pick up. The clutch claw attack instantly tenderizes. It's quite powerful, but it is very slow and takes a long time to get off. I wouldn't be surprised to hear it's the slowest clutch claw attack in the game. It's slow. By holding down right trigger, you will hold out your greatsword in front of you to guard attacks. Whilst not a powerful block, it's still a block nonetheless, and it is so useful to give yourself some extra space. If I'm not quite in a position or in the combo string to get a tackle off so I can continue my attacks, holding up my sword to guard the attacks is a very useful alternative. There's a loopable ledge attack you can do with a mid-air charge slash. After rolling off the ledge, you can hop back over once you start charging your attack. Not great damage compared to what you can do, but a good way to get mounts. Utilizing all the different attacks together, taking advantage of your opportunities to tackle through monsters' attacks, landing big heavy hits to stagger the monster, chop off tails, break parts, and just deal a tremendous amount of damage in such a quick amount of time. This is going to sound redundant, but the key point here is actually being able to land your hits. That's where you're going to struggle. But as I mentioned, as you take out the weapon more against these monsters that you may or may not be familiar with, you're going to build up the muscle memory and understand the positioning you need to be in for various attacks. And if you can't, there's always the heavy bow gun. In addition to the usual skills like weakness exploit, critical boost, there are some others you may want to consider with the greatsword. Constitution would be a fantastic one for your stamina management, as it would vastly decrease the stamina cost of 1, your rolls, and 2, more importantly, your tackles. If you want to play the draw style of greatsword, you can take critical draw and of course frostcraft as well. This would mean that running up to an enemy with your weapon sheathed to then do the unsheathing draw attack will be a good bulk of your damage and one of your powerful attacks. As your movement is very slow whilst you've got the greatsword unsheathed, you will spend a great deal of your time during the fights with the weapon sheathed. As such, quick sheath can be a very useful skill to have level 2 or level 3 of, as you have the ability to block attacks. If you want to, you can put some guard skills on as well. It'd be highly unconventional. I wouldn't really suggest it. It's not what the greatsword's all about particularly, but the option's there if you want to utilize it. Maybe not actually upgrading the guard, but putting 3 offensive guard would be a really cool idea. Quickly perfect block an attack just before it connects, get the 15% attack bonus for 12 seconds. Yush, you're laughing. As tackling through attacks does take damage, resentment could be a very good choice to increase your attack power, as it gives you a healthy chunky boost to attack when you have recoverable damage. If you're tackling like a boss, you might have recoverable damage quite often. Let's take a look at a few fantastic options for greatswords to get you going. As always, my pick up and play suggestions when you're early into MR, into Iceborne, is grab yourself the Guild Palace weapon. This is no different with the greatsword. The Guild Palace has a decent amount of raw, some white sharpness, 10% affinity, and a level 3 gem slot, as well as a plus 30 defense bonus. A great choice to get into Iceborne with, and it looks goddamn sexy. One of the best looking weapons in the game. The Stygian Zinogre Tree Infernal Executioner is another direct craft, decent raw with a small bit of purple sharpness, a chunk of Dragon Elemental with average Elder Seal, and a level 2 gem slot. Like the Guild Palace, another weapon where you can get all the parts from just running one event, in this case fighting the Stygian Zinogre, and it's a direct craft. It would be criminal if I weren't to mention the Wyvern impact weapons, other than my remix to Ignition reference at the start. By the way, R. Kelly. By completing the Every Hunter's Dream string of events, you can get the Wyvern Ignition Greatsword upgraded all the way to Rarity 12. This is one of the best looking weapons in the game, let alone greatswords. It's a fan-made design, looks absolutely killer. You owe it to yourself to get this bad boy. It's a piece of Monster Hunter World culture. There's the Frostfang Barioth Glacial Demon, good raw, big chunk of white sharpness, a tiny sliver of purple, 15% affinity, and a chunky amount of ice. This is just an all-round fantastic weapon. Again, another direct craft. Again, all the materials needed from one event, and it looks absolutely stunning. You need to get this weapon. Look at it. Also, a very accessible, straightforward way to get yourself Alatreon ready. There's the Runa Nergigante Ruinous Atrocity. Great raw, with a chunk of white sharpness, a bit of dragon damage with high Elder Seal, and a level 1 gem slot. A very cool looking weapon. God, it looks good. This thing makes a statement. The Rathalos Greatsword has a good bit of raw, white sharpness, 25% affinity, which is huge, a good chunk of fire elemental, and a level 2 gem slot. And it looks so good. On to the top tier cream of the crop, we've got the Furious Rajang Demon Lord Goldrod. Great raw, purple sharpness, good affinity, and a chunk of thunder. A direct craft, you can get it all from just one event, no nonsense, and will likely be a break point for your weapons. The upgraded Alatreon Revolution looks absolutely killer. Good amount of raw, massive purple sharpness, huge amount of dragon elemental with low Elder Seal, and 2 level 2 gem slots. Likely the second most powerful greatsword you're ever going to get outside of the sieges with the Safi'jiiva weapons, etc. We've got the Raging Brachydios Light Break Blade. Huge raw with a bit of purple sharpness and a chunk of white, a good amount of blast status elemental, which is very powerful, and a level 4 and level 3 gem slot. This thing looks absolutely killer, really packs a punch, and is another break point for your weapons. It's gonna see you through. Of course, you've got the ultimate weapon, the upgraded Black Fatalis Blade. No surprises that it's of course the best greatsword in the game. It's got a crazy amount of raw, 2 level 4 gems, etc. Do you have any additional greatsword tips that I've not mentioned here in the video? Have you tried the greatsword yourself? Are you thinking about giving it a go now, having watched this? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, and that way we can all learn from each other as a community. As mentioned at the start, you folks have really shown up and got us to around 80% of unsubscribed viewers on the channel, with the majority of you being returning. If you enjoy the videos, do subscribe. I've opened up the Discord to all of you. We've got a really good amount of people in there playing Monster Hunter every day. If you want to get some hunts with myself and the squad, you're more than welcome to join. We also play together during the live streams over on Twitch. All the links are in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you in the new world.